Welcome to Think Central Lesson 2.4. It's going to be a lesson about adding and subtracting decimals, but it's not really just that, it's also converting from one decimal place value to another. So we unpack this problem. How many decimeters is equal to 1 meter? So the most important thing we need to know here is this place value chart. So you have to find the meter section. So meters is always equal to 1 right there. So we have 1 meter, and we want to know how many decimeters that's equal to. So if you look over here, right next to it is decimeter. So 1 decimeter, 1 meter is going to be, and here's how you do it. You just do a simple single shift with the decimal point to the right, and that put in your place value holder here. So 1 decimeter, 1 meter is the same as 10 decimeters. So it is a single decimal point shift to the right. Now Think Central also calls it a digit shift. And what they mean by a digit shift is you take the current meters and then you shift it, because that number is actually getting 10 times larger, so you shift that one space to the right and then put a 0 there as a place value holder, and that would give you how many decimeters 1 meter is equal to. But I think it's better just to do the decimal point shift and annex the 0 there, so that's the easy way to convert it. So the answer here should be 10. You're moving from a larger unit to a smaller unit. When you go from a larger to a smaller, then you always multiply. So you're multiplying by a factor of how many places you're moving over in your place value chart, and this time it's 1, so you're multiplying by a factor of 10. Alright, so looking at this problem and unpacking it, they're asking us how many millimeters, which is over here. How many millimeters is equal to 1 decimeter? So go ahead and put in 1 in your decimeter thing, and you want to know how many millimeters. Well, millimeters are much smaller than a decimeter, so you're moving from a larger unit to a smaller unit, and you're going to multiply by a factor of 10 to the second power, or 100. So it's going to get 100 times bigger. So if you move that decimal place over twice and annex the zeros as placeholders, 1 decimeter will equal 100 millimeters. It's quite easy. If you have this place value chart, you just draw it or have it memorized and plug in the zeros, move the decimal place, and it's an easy conversion. Problem number 3, they're asking us how many centimeters is equal to 1 decimeter. So put 1 in the decimeter section, convert that over to centimeters. That's a single shift to the right. 1 decimal shift to the right, it's increasing by a power of 10 because you're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. And make sure you're going from the decimeters to the centimeters, not the other way around, because they're saying you have 1 decimeter and you're changing it into centimeters. So there's going to be 10 centimeters for every 1 decimeter. Have somewhat of two problems in one. So they're asking us first is that you have 1 decimeter and you're changing that into meters. So you're going from a decimeter, which is a smaller unit, and you're changing it into a meter, which is a larger unit. So you're actually going to be dividing, because there's less larger units than there are smaller units. So you're dividing by a factor of 10. So you have 1 decimeter is equal to 1/10 millimeter, 1/10 meter, or if you just have your decimal point right here and you move it over 1, you have your 1 decimeters here, and you're moving it over to millimeters here, so you'd have 0.1 meters, or the same as 0.1 is 1/10. And if you're going from 1 centimeter, over to meters, that's a double shift, 2 places, annex a 0, and you end up with 0.01 meters, or 1/100th of a meter, because 1 centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. So that's an easy way to figure it out. Decimeter is 1/10 of a meter, that's why it's in the 10th place, and a centimeter is 100th of a meter, that's why it's in the 100th place. I will say it's important to remember, so if you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you always divide by a factor of 10, depending on how many shifts you make. And if you're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, then you always multiply, because it depends on how many shifts you make. So they're asking us to take this 1 number here and then convert it into meters and decimeters and centimeters and millimeters. So what I do, first off, I just write the number in the proper place value models sections. So that is equal, that's how many meters I have, 5.638 meters. That would go right here. And then how many decimeters is that? That's a single shift, so that's equal to 56.38. And how many centimeters is that? That's another shift, so it's 563.8. And how many millimeters? 5,638. You can see the decimal place is just shifting every time one place to the right, because it becomes 10 times larger each time you shift. You're going from a larger unit to smaller units over here, and so you multiply. So to start off, we're going to convert 13 and 75 meters into these other numbers. So we start off with 13.75 meters. Now I'm going to change that into decameters. So I'm moving from meters to decameters. Decameters are larger than meters by a factor of 10, so that turns into 1.375. If I'm moving from if I am starting at 13.75 meters and I'm changing that, well, that just stays 13.75 meters. That doesn't change. If I'm going to decimeters, I move it one space, so that's 137.5 decimeters. And again, to change it to centimeters, 1,375. So it really is just a matter of identifying how many places you're going to shift that decimal point, increasing the number or decreasing the number by a factor of 10. So it's a word problem, so we're going to unpack it. Matt is competing in a long jump event. His first jump, here's Matt right here. His first jump was 3 and 46 hundredths. So far, the longest jump in the event has been 4 and 3 hundredths. How much farther must he jump? Right here, must Matt jump in order to be in first place? So this is a classic comparison bar model with the difference right here being our answer. So let's solve that. All right, so we are comparing these two. 4 and 3 hundredths is the largest jump. 3 and 46 hundredths is his best jump. So we're going to just draw our columns and compare these numbers with subtraction. You regroup by a power of 10 because you don't have enough hundredths here, so you have to regroup into 10 tenths, take away 1 tenth, and change it into 10 hundredths. 13 minus 6 is 7, 9 minus 4 is 5, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So this gives us our difference. So Matt's going to need to jump 0.57 meters farther than his first jump in order to be in first place. And that actually is a tie for first place, but he's tied for first place. So the difference is 0.57 meters. Let's unpack this last problem. So Rita has some ribbon, and she used 23.5 centimeters of it, and she had 50 centimeters left over after you use it. So how much did she start with? So that must have been the total amount of ribbon that she started with. You're basically doing a part whole. This is what she used, this is what she had. Combine those and you'll get the total. So you see here, you had set up your problem here, 23 and 5 tenths, adding to 50. Now what you don't see here is this invisible decimal point here, so go ahead and add that, and add a 0 as your place value holder. Draw your columns, and then we just add them up. So 5 tenths and 0 tenths is 5 tenths. Put your decimal place there. 3 holes and 0 holes is 3 holes. 2 tens and 5 tens is 7 tens. So Sarita must have started with 73 and 5 tenths centimeters of ribbon before she cut any off. Alright, that's it. So some of this might be difficult, especially the converting of the decimals. It just takes practice. There are some tools online that can help you. It's best to understand that place value model and the chart and just plot the numbers in the chart, but make sure you're asking for help. as soon as you need it, because that's how you build mastery. Good work. See you tomorrow.